ジャギ様から盗み取った北斗神拳、とくと味合わせてやるわ。
Well, hello everybody, welcome to the video. My name is Midway, and today finally the pre-patch for Dragonflight has landed on retail, both on NA and today on EU. So what best that going through the talents and seeing what builds we can now play for both Rating and Mythic Plus as Holy Paladins whenever we are on level 60, so we don't have the option to get a full build. So let's kind of go through this and look at what a potential build would look like for both Rating and Mythic Plus, as we only have 60 points, or rather we are on level 60. So for Rating, let's start with the class tree, and then we'll do the spec tree, and then we'll do that for Mythic Plus as well. So what would I personally pick? I would pick the following. So let's start going through it. We start with this, so we obviously want to be getting Hammer of Wrath. We'll get our Divine Steed. Then we would be getting 2 charges. Mobility is basically very reduced, so we cannot really give up 2 charges easily. Now we need to pick stuff. We don't really need this much of the crap up here, but we need to pick something for sure. So you could always give up Improved Cleanse if you don't really need it for the fight, but for the sake of just getting that out of the way and not having to, you know, change it every fight, I would just pick that. Then you could potentially just pick a little bit more, you know, speed with a horse, or rather duration, that's always good. And then put in some points into Fist of Justice, just so you can keep going down, because you don't really need much more here. You could potentially grab more auras, maybe that would be a bit more interesting, because you don't really need all those points in Fist of Justice. That way you can also have Crusader Aura. Regardless, once we are able to go down, we would be picking Avenging Wrath for sure, and getting Holy Aegis, some good flat stats, our Blessing of Sacrifice, Unbreakable Spirit, Sacrifice of the Just, more Blessings of Sacrifice, always good. And then we could get Judgment of Light, which is not really doing any healing now, that's been nerfed to the ground, but still it is free healing. Golden Path would be doing quite some meaningful amount of healing now as well. And then we could go and get After Image, some more free healing. We could get Bop for the sake of just having that running. And then, how many points are we at? We are at 18. We still have 2 points to spare, so we could here go and do multiple things. We could go ahead and just get 2 Seals of Mercy here, so that then we can keep on going down. We could also get a shorter cooldown on Bob. That wouldn't really be too useful for Rating, unless there's very specific things you need Bob for. You could also get Touch of Light, but that's also doing like no healing at all. So at this point, most of those choices are really not that impactful, nor too important, but you could play around with those. I guess I would just go with Seal of Mercy and try it out for myself, because I haven't even tried it. But yeah, those are like 3 things that you could get. Seal of Mercy, maybe Touch of Light, which is doing almost no healing. Shorter Bob, or even Turn Evil if you wanted to, but Turn Evil, probably something somebody else can take care of as well. Now we would go for Divine Purpose, then we would get Seal of Alacrity. Of course, getting Sanctify Wrath, and at this point we would only have 2 points left. Oh no, we actually have a lot more points left. No, never mind. We are at 26, so we are required level 60, as you can see here. That's all we can get at this point. We would not be able to get any more talents, because we are on level 60. So what I would be prioritizing is getting Sanctified Wrath instead of Seal of Order. And then just might as well just get the flat stat buffs, as well as, of course, Divine Purpose. If you were able to, you know, you could potentially go for Seal of Order, but then you would be giving up Sanctified Wrath. I think Sanctified Wrath is much more impactful than Seal of Order. So this would be what I would want to say that a class 3 would look like for Rating as a Holy Paladin right now in the pre-patch. Now let's look at what class 3 would look like for Mythic Plus, rather. So for Mythic Plus, I would be picking Hammer of Wrath. By the way, you could also, I don't really remember if I picked Blessing of Freedom, but you could always just give up Fist of Justice at all and completely and just pick Blessing of Freedom if you need that. But for Mythic Plus, we would be going with the following. We need to pick a kick, so we're going to be trying to do that. Blinding Light, Double Horse. Improved Cleanse, just in case we need that, but, you know, same idea. you would always try to opt out of it if you don't actually need to use it, because there's no such a dispel and in the raid. So we go pick that and pick our sack, pick Unbreakable Spirit, pick Bob, and then we would then pick up Incandescence, which does a little bit more of a respectable amount of damage. Don't really care too much about Seal of Reprisal. It's not too much damage. It's only gonna be increasing the damage from Shield of Righteous, which is good, but it costs a lot of points. And instead we could go for, once again, a little bit of free healing over this side, after a bit more impactful on Mythic Plus as well. So then we would go for Hallowed Ground, and we would go for Divine Purpose, Seal of Alacrity, Sanctified Wrath, and at this point we got 2 more points left. So what could we choose at this point? We could go for Seal of the Crusader, a little bit more damage, and that's it. We couldn't, actually no, I'm tripping. It's only 1 more, there we go. So we could only get 1 more point, and we could go for either 1 point on Seal of the Crusader, we could get maybe some speed and avoidance. I would rather get Seal of the Crusader instead, or we could just use that point wherever we see fit. But the main thing I want to get at is that you kind of need to just get Sanctified Wrath, and the Consecration increased damage, probably the biggest thing out of the damage you can get. Of course, getting to Mad Paragon would be ideal, but you're not going to be able to do that until we're level 70, so I would call this quite a decent class 3 for Mythic Plus. Again, being able to play a little bit around with this talent on Seal of the Crusader. Maybe also giving up a little bit of the healing talents here if you want to get something extra, like, I don't know, improved Blessing of Protection or such. But for the most part, this would be the skeleton for, again, picking Freedom if you want to. You would most likely want to, so you could also just go ahead and do that and get a little bit less damage, but getting Freedom, or giving up Improved Cleanse and you also get Freedom. Whatever, depends on the dungeon. That's the whole idea. It's to be able to play around with a tree and not stick to one thing, be able to be a little bit flexible, so whenever you approach a different scenario, you gotta remember to change the tree. It sucks. I know a lot of people don't like changing talents at all. They would rather just have one build and call that their build for everything, but that's not how it works. So you kind of got to be a little bit flexible and think about the situation and make changes accordingly. Now let's move on to the spec tree. Let me go ahead and move the camera away from that side onto this one so we can keep on seeing what's up. Excuse me for that. Not that. Let me just reset everything. Okay, so let's start once again with a rating build for for this set of talents. So we are probably going to be playing a melee build still, but we could potentially be looking at also a ranged build. So if we're gonna be doing the ranged build first, just because of people are probably seen my previous video and are thinking, well, that's what you were saying we're gonna be playing, what's up? Well, let's just do that first and let's see. So for a ranged build, I would still be picking Divine Insight, increasing the healing and damage from our Holy Shocks. The healing you do with the Holy Shocks is much bigger than the healing you do with any of Flash of Light and Holy Light, so I would just rather do that, and then you would get more overall healing. But picking increased healing from Flash of Light and Light of Dawn could also do quite a meaningful amount of healing. But let's just keep on going down here. We pick our Divine Favor, we pick Divine Revelation, so we have a lot of mana sustain. Remember, or I didn't really mention it last video, but the reason why our mana is tighter in Dragonflight is because we are playing with Sanctified Wrath, so we have a lot more Holy Shocks. Also, our haste is probably gonna be very, very high at the beginning of the pre-patch, so we will just start to go a little bit more very, very quickly. You'll see that immediately. Let's pick our beacon transfers. We'll pick our healing with the Tower of Light. Well, that's what it was called before, so we could get some holy power from healing the beacon targets. Get Divine Glimpse, so we can get more Holy Shock crits. And then we can get our second Sunrise from some more free healing, or from our Lights of Dawn. At this point, we have... we need to pick this for sure. Yeah, I completely forgot about this one. We need to increase our healing from our Light of Dawn. And we can go on to our beacons, our Divine Toll, our Avenging Wrath Might. And we have... I think that's all we have access to at this point. Yeah, we have only 2 more points that we can spend on Awakening. So we could play around a little bit with this. We could potentially give up 1 point of Awakening for maybe Breaking Dawn if you're playing Halandrus, so you can get that 40-yard range. I do believe legendaries are disabled now in the pre-patch, so you don't have access to Shadow Breakers anymore. That's not working. And you don't really have any more points to play around with here, so you kind of really just need to get those basic things, which are Avenging Wrath Might. You need to get your beacons, you need to get Awakening as much as you can. It's gonna be still, even if it's nerfed, it's basically giving us insane amount of wings, free wings, and then Divine Toll, always very important. And that's just about it. The way you play this is the way I showed in the video. You gotta be not using Crusader Strike at all if possible, but you could also do so. And then the idea would be to weave in Holy Light casts or Flash of Light by that matter as well, but mainly Holy Lights onto the beacon targets. Whenever you have downtime, you're still playing melee range, and then you just generate a lot of holy power through healing beacon targets. Unfortunately, we do not have Inflorescence of the Sunwell, so the ranged build here will be weaker, but we don't really have access to getting all the way to Inflorescence with this level of talents. We could potentially give up Divine Toll for that matter and also go ahead and do that. That will be quite costly though. I don't really know if you would rather do that. Now let's, for the sake of it, call it also a melee build, and this would also probably apply to Mythic Plus. Let's do instead what a melee build would look like, and that would be the following for rating. It would be pretty similar for the most part, but then instead of getting Resplendent Light, we would actually still play Resplendent Light actually. So let's go ahead and pick some things that I believe you would want to have for a melee build. So Divine Favor would probably be expendable, but we kind of need to get points somewhere. Wouldn't be consuming infusion, so we don't care about that. We are talking about ratings, so let's just get Rule of Law for the sake of it. It's always very nice. And then I guess we are gonna have to pick Divine Favor here. What else will we need to pick for sure? We are at 17 points, we need to get to 20. Could give up Light of the Martyr for sure, because we're not going to get MARAAD'S, but we could play MARAAD'S as well, right? That's the thing, you could always go ahead and do this, and then you play MARAAD'S, spending... Oh yeah, I forgot about those points. So you could go ahead and play a MARAAD'S build, but we're gonna be running short of points here in a moment, right? We are already 57. Yeah, we wouldn't be getting any Awakening if we're playing MARAAD'S like this. Could we potentially give up 1 point up here anyways? I believe we could potentially do so. Yeah, we could give up Divine Favor and have 1 more point, so we can do that and get an Awakening point, but still, you're giving up quite some stuff. Giving up Awakening, it is an option if you want to keep playing MARAAD'S, you could do so that way. That would be a melee build. How is this melee? Well, you're pretty much just using Crusader Strikes instead of casting. You're giving up the casting options on the left here, and that would be a MARAAD'S build. That I would say that would be the melee build for MARAAD'S in the pre-patch. If you're not playing MARAAD'S instead, we're gonna go ahead and refill this, but it would be looking a lot like just picking Divine Favor. Rule of Law is something you could give up, but let's keep going down for a second. And you would get that. Second Sunrise, always very important. That's just 3 Lights at Dawn. That's like having a tier set right there. And then we would need to keep picking things here. And I kind of struggle to think of what do we really need. Like, we need that and we need this. Okay, so at this point we can go down. Yes. So we could get, instead, we could get Immune Infusions. We're not really going to be healing our beacon targets, so this is something we can give up. And having Light of the Martyr, even though we're not playing MARAAD'S, is always nice, just as a resource of being able to do some decent amount of healing whenever we need to. And yeah, that would be pretty much it, really. We would just be giving up Divine Revelations. We still cannot really get to Crusader's Might. I still think that would be a very mana-intensive option, so we would potentially just end up playing like this with, once again, Divine Toll, Avenging Wrath Might, getting Awakening as much as we can, getting our Beacons, and then at this point, once again, if we really need to get Breaking Dawn for things like Halandrus, we would give up 1 Awakening point. And that would pretty much be about it. There's not much options here for the SPEC tree, as you can see. Potentially could give up Divine Favor. No, at that point we can't. We need that point. So, yep, our options are limited. We have the same kind of skeletons for the builds that we already have right now, or rather we had in Shadowlands. It's gone already. But they are not complete. There's gonna be missing pieces, so I would say those are the builds that I would be saying they are. The skeleton for both raiding build, for melee, ranged, MARAAD'S, and also for Mythic Plus. I would say we would just end up playing this same melee build. I would say you could potentially do some crazy stuff, and I don't know, what would you give up to get 2 Blessing of Summer? Probably nothing, to be fair. If you give Divine Toll, I think that's too much for getting 2 Blessing of Summer, and you cannot afford giving up anything up here. All you can give up is Beacons, Might, and Awakening, which you need to get 2 Blessing of Summer, so wouldn't really be changing much of this if I was going to be playing Mythic Plus. I don't really think that there would be such a thing. Maybe I could be giving up, I don't know, something like Divine Favor, but I couldn't really get to Beacon of Light here, so we could get Holy Power from healing the Beacon targets, which is really useful. Either way, that's not that much of a big deal anyways. So yeah, I think that would be what I would call the skeletons for all the builds that we could potentially play as Holy Paladins right now in PvE content in the Shadowlands, or rather the Dragonflight pre-patch. It's gonna take a little while to not say Shadowlands anymore, but yeah. That's about it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and subscribe if you've done so. And hopefully you enjoy the Dragonflight pre-patch. Hopefully your UI is not too broken. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. See ya.